Well, we're back with Pete Blaber for Ukraine SitRep, and you're going to know a lot more about Pete real soon. I'll let him talk about that if he wants to. But Pete, thanks for coming back on, man.
Yeah, great to be here. To our viewers, it's been a little bit slow. There's a couple of reasons for that. Todd and I have both been traveling, but also in Ukraine, it's been freezing cold. The Russian Orthodox Christmas, or the Orthodox Christian Christmas, is beginning of January. And to those who missed it, Putin, at one point raised the potential for a ceasefire on Christmas. And it was revealing because Merz jumped in, the Chancellor of Germany, and said, on the 25th, he said, Putin called for a ceasefire, and here we are on the 25th, and no ceasefire. And it's like, it's revealing because it shows if you don't understand your competition, if you don't understand the country and the culture and the people you're directing your angst at, then you're just spitting in the wind. That's what senselessness is. Not applying your senses, but all that together. And it's
there.
Go ahead.
Just real quick, in Russia, I never knew it. I thought Christmas is like one day, or in Eastern Europe, I should say. It's not. It's like 9 days. It goes on. It's a huge, New Year's, Christmas thing, and it just goes on and on and on. A lot of food, and anyway. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's so same thing. It's been really cold, and that always slows things down. The massive snows, which affected all of Europe, but definitely affected this area. So it's been inhospitable, but that doesn't mean the fighting is back on there. It's still, the battlefield's moving, and the peace talks, we're not exactly sure. Kirchner and Witkoff are going to Russia, I believe, today to talk to Putin. So there's problems. We talked about the Ukrainian response, which is completely unacceptable. But the war's going on, and we just wanted to update our viewers. We got some good clips to show you that you don't see anywhere else. And they basically hit on a lot of the key topics, which unfortunately revealed to us that it probably there won't be a breakthrough anytime soon, given what the EU's doing, given what is going on with Zelensky and his, junta government in Ukraine. So maybe start out with the weather, Todd. I think we got a couple of pictures and videos.
It's brutal there. This is. There's no heat over much of Kiev. 3 million people at risk, and imagine surviving in minus 20 day after day with children. It's really brutal.
Yeah. So again, some context. Up till really about 6 weeks to 2 months ago, one of the things a lot of people have been saying, observers, is if you go into Kyiv, people barely even act like there's war going on. All the nightclubs were open, all the shops, and Kyiv's, as you and I have talked about, a fantastic town. No shortage of things to do. And so it really hadn't touched Kyiv. And you also have pointed out, a lot of people don't know this, but Kyiv is considered a holy city to Orthodox Christians. It's where the religion started, and Putin and Russia have showed incredible restraint not to flatten Kyiv, because remember, the battlefield is the people, the things you see flattened in videos and on TV is Eastern Ukraine, where the ethnic Russians live. So they felt the war in totality because most of their towns are now flattened. But it has not been the same way in Western Ukraine and certainly in Kyiv. And it's happening now. And Mayor Klitschko, who's the ex-boxing champ, he just announced yesterday that over 600,000 Ukrainians have fled Kyiv just in January alone. So that's about a quarter of the population fleeing. His advice is everyone should get out. the estimate is 80% of Kyiv is completely without power. So that's no heat, no water. And of course, the shops, if there's a few left, but the ones that are left have no bread. Obviously, perishable items, are very difficult. The weather helps, but you can't make money in a grocery store if you got to use generator power 24/7 to power it. So it's fallen apart, and it's not good, bad, or indifferent. It's the horrors of war, and like you said, imagine the people who can't afford to flee. They are literally freezing to death. And the reason we want to start with that is because, what we're going to show you is no movement on the peace process, especially from Zelensky and Ukraine, still not willing to compromise on any of the things they've stuck their feet in the ground on, why they lose territory and why their people, are living in squalor and, into that survival mode of life, which is a stark difference from the way they used to live.
Have you watched any of the Davos stuff? I've been pretty in tune in it and kind of neglected everything else. But today it was all rah rah. Russia's losing. We're going to kill 50,000 Russians a month, and it's all good. And we're going to win this war. I mean, from all the European capitals, that was the refrain. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a psyop. It just shows you, and the hallmarks of a psyop, which includes, industrial strength propaganda, is that they have to erase history and current reality in order for the psyop to work. So of course they erase history, how it started, what's happened since 2014. But they're also erasing what's happening on the battlefield. And, since you jumped to it, we'll jump to it now. Sirski came out, did a press conference 3 days ago. And in that press conference, he started with some candor. He said, Russia has matched our technology on drones. They're ahead of us on fiber optic drones. And our intelligence says they have exceeded their goal for number of Garans manufactured a day. They're now at 400, almost 500, 480 Garans a day. So that means they can fly 480 Garans a day. And that's an amazing thing. We've mentioned it before, but I'll mention it again. If you read the historic lessons from the Eastern Front, written by Germany, what went wrong? What did we get wrong? Well, the number one thing was we underestimated the Russian military, but the number two is we totally underestimated Russian military industrial capacity. And that was obviously done again here today for the fools who thought it was a good idea to try to make Russia implode by antagonizing it while killing ethnic Russians in eastern Ukraine. But we can see that their military industrial capacity is super impressive. And I'm not sure we could have matched that. So, it's not good, bad. We're not cheering it or anything. We're just saying this was apparent to anyone who understands Russia, anyone who'd been to Russia in the last 10 years and could see what they've done economically. And it's happening, and the results are catastrophic. But he then, after admitting that, he said, however, Russians are taking far, far more casualties than us. In fact, in 2025, our casualties dropped by 13%. And, that's as farcical as you can get. But, he spit it out anyway. And there's another, I want to give a source for people who can want to look this up themselves. There's a great site now, the Russians, it's been up the whole time, but it's up now, and it's called Media Zona.
Mm.
Zona. It's one word, Media Zona, and it's done by Russia, and it's been up since 23. It's now updated. Every Russian soldier who's been killed has his picture on there and the date of when he died.
Mm.
And the numbers are still pretty horrific. So here's the numbers from Russia. 2023, 39,694. 2024, 58,064. That's how many men we lost in Vietnam in 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
2025, 22,767, and no count for 26. So, they've admitted to what we've been saying ballpark the whole time. They've admitted to 163,000 total dead for the entire war.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you take the body counts, the body exchanges, which are 39 to 1, 39 times the number of dead Ukrainians as Russians, these numbers fit. And the Russian and the Ukrainian total, which we know because of the leaked or hacked database from the Ukrainian MOD, which this is a Ukrainian database made by the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. That happened almost 6 months ago, and they had the count at 1.2 million dead Ukrainians. So, it's probably around 1.4 or 5 now, and which is just an incredible number. So on both sides, it's 1.5 million men have died, and these Ukrainians are still dying. Yet, there's no movement on peace talks. There's no desperation. Zelensky's blaming the loss of all these power stations and the fact that the Russians' drones and missiles are getting through. He's blaming it on the military. He came out yesterday and said it's the military's fault. They should be shooting these down. It's completely unacceptable how many are getting through. But as we know, it's not the military's fault. Their number one weapon is the Patriot, and the Patriot is not anymore a relevant anti-aircraft weapon system. It just does not work. And at $1 million plus per missile, it's not even worth shooting at a Garand that, the Russians spent $15,000 on max to make. So bad situation with the weather, and you still have this same industrial strength propaganda. So, the question is why, and maybe we can show Britain just agreed to provide its most cutting edge missiles to Ukraine. I think we have a thing of Starmer. Yep, right there. Mm-hmm. Intends to transfer the most modern weapons to the Ukrainian, powerful long-range ballistic missiles that can hit Russia. And you can see the signing ceremony there, and you just be like, why would they do this right now, given what we're talking about, the dire state on the battlefield? Their people are freezing to death in the middle of a winter that has still at least 2 more months to go. Why would they do it? And that's a good question, and it should go to our next slide. I think you have the French admiral story.
Yes. This is the Nabu.
So another $100 billion. Yep, the Nabu story. Another $100 billion corruption scandal. This one caught red-handed, taped by the driver in the back seat. You can read it. Yermak's car talking to this French admiral and talking about the slush fund and how they're going to transfer money and how people are going to get paid off. And that's $100 million or personnel, 2 billion euros, basically, and over fighter jets, which means the fighter jets aren't coming, but a bunch of these bureaucrats' pockets have been lined with, like they could never have dreamed of them being lined. Yeah. And so when you continue to ask why would you allow your country to live in squalor, your country to flee your intelligentsia, and your most valuable asset as a country, your patriots, to just die to where they're heading right now, which is almost extinction level. You're passing 1 million men. If, every country has 1 million, patriots who will stand up for freedom at any time, any age, then that country's a lucky country. And they've already lost well beyond that. So,
So I have
you're
a video
seeing
with
this.
that. There's a video with that too. Do you want to play that now? Or
Yeah.
okay, here we go.
Une enquête choquante a été publiée sur le site web de l'agence anticorruption ukrainienne, NABU. L'agence a conclu qu'un certain nombre de hauts fonctionnaires et militaires ukrainiens et français avaient détourné.
So you get the point. I mean, it's a corruption scandal that NABU, which is the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, uncovered.
Yep. And, but you're not hearing anything about it. I mean, a French admiral in the back seat, an active duty French admiral, agreeing to the money laundering and slush fund process of this transaction, which is Ukraine using Euro money anyway and US money to buy these Rafale fighter jets. And yet it's not even going to Rafale fighter jets, which isn't a good investment either.
Yeah.
And so you can't make this up. But that's why we report it, because, like you said, at Davos today, their leaders are literally standing up saying, we can win this thing. We're winning. Russia can't handle the casualties. And just on that point, we talked about Russia, 163,000. They also announced last week that they exceeded their contract recruitment rate. They hit 415,000. I think their goal was 400. They shut it down at 400, but they have 415. So Russia took in 415,000 new recruits just last year, and their army was already standing at something like 780,000. So, it's like physics. You can't argue physics. You can't argue the law of numbers, and big numbers especially, and they're there. So that's why we've got to keep uncovering this propaganda, because it's just bold-faced lies. To me, you and I have said this before, they're obsessed with the war's got to keep going through 2026. And you just saw why empirically, rushing to sign this signing ceremony with Starmer in Britain and Zelensky. They're trying to obligate all these contracts. And remember, these are all going to European military industrial complex, which we talked about 2 episodes ago. Stocks skyrocketed when the whole Trump thing was finalized. We're not giving you weapons anymore. You either make them yourself or you can buy them for the standard price from us and do what you want with them. Well, they obviously saw that. They have the same thing we do in the military industrial complex, lobbyists at every level. They went right in, licking their chops, and now they're trying to sign all these contracts to obligate these funds. And meanwhile, at a lesser scale, European economies are all tanking. Starmer says he's going to cancel all those harsh measures he took on people and economy, reducing pensions, reducing heating oil, all that stuff. But it's still there, and that's why. And giving money to Ukraine is worse than just giving it to a black hole. It's giving money to the corruption network to repatriate across this massive globalist corruption network that is trying to propagate and keep the Ukraine war going.
Well, on that note, this is Viktor Orban talking about exactly that they're trying to take all of Hungary's assets and give it to Ukraine.
Yeah,
he's not going to allow that.
Hero.
Yeah.
He's a hero. He noted that Ukraine is demanding $800 billion from the West for the next decade. Notice that's what all they want is it to be obligated. so that these funds are gated off and can go into the slush fund, the laundering industrial complex. And what he says at the end is spot on. Europe will weaken and face an economic collapse if it continues to sponsor Kyiv at the expense of Europeans. And that's why I think Viktor Orban is a hero. He knows his job is to take care of the interests of the people of Hungary. And giving Kyiv money, which everyone knows is a massive corruption cesspool. You're looking at it in videotapes that the mainstream media won't show you. But again, you can't make this up. It's just got to be stopped. And that's why we talk about it.
So I've got a video of Orbán. I'll just play that real quick.
Európai demokrácia azért a gazdasághoz hasonlóan lejtmenetben van. Volt egy választás egy európai országban, amit meg kellett ismételni, hogy nem ragadtak a borítékok. Van olyan európai ország, ahol a legtámogatottabb ellenzéki pártot nemzetbiztonsági megfigyelés alatt tartják.
AFD.
Van olyan ország Európában, ahol nem engedik elindulni egy polgármester választáson egy adott párt képviselőt. Van olyan ország, ahol a legnépszerűbb vezetőt bírósági döntéssel megakadályozzák abban, hogy el tudjon indulni a választáson. Van olyan ország, ahol egy belügyminiszternek egészen a legmagasabb bírói instanciáig kellett eljutnia, hogy ne zárják börtönbe, mert megvédte a saját országa határait. Van olyan ország, ahol rálőttek az elnökjelöltre. Ha ezeket így egyben nézem, akkor Magyarország egészen mint a demokráciának. De azt mondom önnek, hogy és ahhoz mit szól, hogy az Európai Unió több vezető tisztségviselője ellen az Egyesült Államok vezet be szankciókat. Arra hivatkozva, hogy Európában a szólásszabadságot korlátozó szabályok kialakításában vettek részt. Ezek mind új dolgok. A régi világrend fölbomlott, formálódóban van egy új, amely ilyen kísérő jelenséggel kopogtat be. A magyar kormány egyetlen dolgot tud tenni, a magyar kormány nem támogat szankciókat, a magyar kormány azt gondolja, hogy mindenki, ha van véleménye, és ez képes a jogszabály keretei között megfogalmazni, akkor hajrá tegye. A viták jót tesznek, a demokrácia az véleménykülönbségekből, vitákból, megbeszélésekből, megegyezésekből áll, ezt nem lehet megspórolni. Valaki azt gondolja, hogy ezt adminisztratív szabályokkal kiiktathatja, vagy szankciókkal megszüntetheti, az magát a demokráciát fogja megszüntetni.
So there you go. He's getting into democracy. Yes.
Yeah, historic speech should be on every mainstream media network. Thanks for playing that, Todd. He said it all. And what he was talking about in the beginning is the color revolutions, which, they're still hard at. And the color revolution, the advanced color revolution, is the first thing you do is send in lawyers with bags of cash. They go in to bribe the Supreme Court justices, the top legal experts in the country. They have their playbook. So here's the things you can look at that anyone can call corrupt. And if you just say this and then open a case, then we can open it, win it, get the new election, get the person in they want to win. And that's what's happened in Moldova, Romania. They tried to do it in Georgia. Georgia was just too overwhelmingly populist, wouldn't let it happen. But the AFD thing in Germany, we should tell Germany, we're not talking to you. That's totalitarianism, and especially at the mayoral level. But again, they're using the color revolution playbook, which was written by U.S. State Department and CIA personnel. And that thing says the lowest level is actually more important than the higher. You've got to take these cities and these oblasts, the towns, provinces, and win those over to prevent the populist movement from getting, any kind of ground strength. And it's disgusting. And, of course, the head of the AFD is totally against the war in Ukraine, wants to end it immediately. She's also totally against the illegal immigration that's been allowed in Germany and the special dispensation given to many of these migrants that Angela Merkel let in her open door policy. So,
well, also there was 7 or 8, I forget the exact number, maybe more AFD politicians that all mysteriously died in the last election. So, there you go.
Yeah. Disgusting. And, especially out of Germany. Germany just had a big scandal. Apparently a couple of their elite units were overtly giving the Heil Hitler sign, have all kinds of paraphernalia in their team rooms and whatnot. And, again, that's one of the byproducts of a schizophrenic government that has no foundation, that can't talk to its people about doing the right thing and about objectivity, and that extremism is bad no matter what form it takes, which every military person should know. You cannot be politically tainted as a member of the military, or you'll never be competent on the battlefield. None of that shit can be in your head. You have to be focused on the tasks that make you competent: shoot, move, and communicate. But it continues to go on, and that's why when we opened, we said, their actions speak louder than any words that anyone is espousing right now. Their actions say, throw whatever monkey wrenches we need into this process, demur, delay, and ultimately defeat these efforts to find peace, at least through 2026, so we can get these contracts obligated.
Yeah, amazing. Well, on that, why don't we talk about Nord Stream? You want to bring that up real quick?
Yeah, because it goes into the heating thing, and
so this,
Dmitriev, and we've talked about him before. This guy, you talk about diplomats who should know something about the other countries they're dealing with. Dmitriev lived in the U.S. for 14 years. He was a child, genius or whatever. Went to MIT and Stanford, but 14 years. He gets it. He's the guy who couldn't contain himself about the tunnel connecting Alaska with Russia, which you and I wholeheartedly agree with. He's really sharp, and he brings up another great point that is the only reason that people aren't hearing this said all over is because it's to the mainstream media, the globalist media. It's something that needs to be shut down. How do they feel about blowing up the Nord Stream now? They have no continuous gas supply. They depend on us sending ships with gas on it over to the EU, and they're freezing too. Germany's gone to austerity measures. We already mentioned Great Britain, but it's a cold winter, and people need to be asking, why did my government blow up that pipeline? And what did that accomplish anyway? Now that we look back on it, nothing. It didn't bring Russia to its knees. It had no material effect on its economy. It was just another senseless decision made by the globalists, and of course, Joe Biden, Jake Sullivan, and Austin, all the individuals who were behind that and sanctioned it. Think of them, why these people are freezing.
So the UK is making noise again about putting people on the ground, but they don't have the money or the will, the UK doesn't even have the will to survive, in my opinion. I mean, the culture just has committed suicide, I think. And so same with Germany as well, and France. But because of the unrestricted migration and all of that, but their culture is dying, and they can say anything they want, but they don't have the force structure, simply don't, or the money.
True. And this is a retired general just saying what you just said and what everybody knows. But it's powerful because remember what we said, the way to expose propaganda is with facts in real time. And this is a fact. They don't have it. It exposes they're just pretending. Remember, right before Davos, they all met, the three key ones, Macron, Merz, and Starmer. And that's when all the talk about, hey, well, we're talking specifics about how to provide security for Ukraine after the ceasefire, and which is not going to happen either unless there's a peace agreement. There's not going to be a ceasefire unless there's a peace agreement. But no one ever thought this was a good idea. There's a bunch of videos by individuals I told you about, especially in Britain, saying, I don't know what they're talking about, but none of us want to fight Russia. And, it's military guys saying it. Of course they don't. What's the logic of why you lose your life as a Brit for this fake propaganda war in Ukraine? And they know they'd lose their lives because jumping into this war would be the last bad decision any of these European countries ever made. So,
well, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say there's a video on that, essentially on Poland, that you sent me. I'll just play that.
Yeah, it's another
really
good one.
And is that we have found a way to reassure Ukraine that her state functions and her defense budget will be sustained by the EU with a sum of $90 billion for the next 2 years. That, I think, is changing Putin's calculus. Because he may have hoped, as he did from the beginning, that,
fatigue would set in.
Democracies are pathetic, democracies don't have the staying power. Now he has to be ready to fight for another 2 years. And and it's not clear that his army and his economy can bear that burden.
So that's the Tusk government who is just completely on the globalist. And it's destroying Poland. There's a video out, I can bring it, where an African guy is in Poland and he's saying to a Ukrainian refugee, "I'm Polish, you're not. This is the new Poland, get out." So it's
wow.
It's
But I mean, Todd, that video should go into an archive as an example of a propagandist trying to make a case. And did you see what he did? And then Putin says, "Oh, nasty democracies." That's not a fact. That's your imitation of what you think he's saying. But as we've already shown, and as anyone who understands common sense, Russia's like, hey, knock yourself out. You want it to go 2 more years, we'll go all the way to Kyiv. We'll take all these oblasts. Nothing's going to change. They have no problem. And go back to those numbers, 1.25 million dead versus 163,000. Forced conscripts in Ukraine, exceeding the number in Russia, a number that any country other than Russia probably could not produce right now. It would take a major Pearl Harbor-like event in the U.S. for 400,000 to sign up. And we might be the only other country that could do it, but it would have to be a Pearl Harbor-like event. Certainly not, let's do it so we could send them to Ukraine halfway across the world to get destroyed. Really unbelievable. And you heard him say that key point. So we've figured out a way to keep this going for 2 more years. So he's stretching it to 27. I'm sure they rethought the 26. Hey, if we go to 27, we can actually re-obligate those funds for another year. So it's a massive military industrial complex driven course of action by the EU and these European leaders, and of course, Poland being part of that. And it's despicable because of those deaths, those numbers we're talking about, people freezing, nasty war. I think we have a couple of clips here just to drive that home, because a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Here is one soldier who was captured.
Идти по лесополкам, ну там видео, и в видео точки расставлены, и шли по этим точкам, ну по карте, дошли до точки непосредственно, ну и шли мы дней 5. В каждой там где-то лесополке или еще где-то, то есть искали блиндаж, в блиндажах ночевали и на следующее утро выдвигались. И так в течение 5-6 дней. И шли до Мирнограда. В Мирнограде зашли и шли с группой 4 человек. 2 человека накрыло минометом. И вдвоем мы прошли пару улиц и зашли в дом и сдались в плен. Вообще нам говорили, что там находятся наши, ну, то есть украинцы. Мы постучались в двери, потому что попробовали открыть дверь, дверь была закрыта. Мы
Yeah.
Yeah, he was abandoned, and Mirnograd is like a suburb of Pokrovsk. So when Mirnograd was surrounded, they walked for 5 days to get in there. And again, you see this common theme we've talked about. Guys don't know what they're doing. There's no logic of why. They're just told to do stuff, and instead of an explanation, they're told do it or else. And that is the death knell of any military. Doesn't matter if it's Ukraine, Russia, any military. It's about knowledge. Knowledge is power. Everyone needs to have situational awareness. And when you're just sending your recruits blindly into a surrounded cauldron, your words no longer have any meaning, because once again, your actions drowned out any word you might say about caring for your troops. So
here's a piece of battle footage.
Yeah, these are Ukrainian soldiers trying to get back in their dugout. And that's the horrific fate of it.
Yeah.
And again, we don't show that because it's cool. We show it because there's no other way to drive home the point of how horrific this war is and how guys are dying like that. They're running into their dugout and then getting blown to pieces while they're in there.
1,000 a day, essentially.
Yeah,
that's
the number.
That kind of scale is people, you can't really get your mind around that. 1,000 guys a day.
And we got people trying to kill ICE agents for trying to capture known criminals and do the right thing with them. They're criminals to start with, being illegal aliens, but then the crimes they've committed as illegal aliens. So just think about that and the priorities, what social media has done to priorities. If there was no social media, you care about what's going on around you. You don't direct all your attentions on some made up propaganda from across the world and a message that's been given to you by, your globalist masters. So same thing in Europe. Everyone should have the same passion you and I do for saving the rest of the Ukrainian manpower and civilians and their economy. And the only way to do that is to do the right thing and end this war right away.
So I've got a couple mobilization clips here. This is another Ukraine.
Remember, Russia had to cut off had to shut down its recruitment headquarters because so many volunteered. This is what Ukraine's doing to get one guy. And imagine what that guy did to pull your door panel out. Just think about how the grip he had on that. Now look what they're doing to him. There's a recruit. Gut punch, he probably just injured his kidney for life. You hear the honks?
Скажите, а что с машиной делать теперь? Ну что,
They're
поломали машину?
Spray base at everyone, and there's another video of them shooting. They're now using deadly force to fend off the civilians who rise up to protect these young men who don't have the means to leave. It's hard to leave anyway. To get out in winter would be incredibly difficult. They'll kill you at the border. It's shoot to kill at the border. Not coming in, going out.
Yeah. Here's another one from Ukraine where they actually injured a civilian.
Yeah, they just sprayed that woman. Did she look like a threat to anyone? And the guy.
It's hard to watch. Hard to watch.
It is hard, but Todd, that you can't have that. If that even just happened one time, it would be an indicator of a pattern. And
Yeah.
again, the purpose we show those for is because the people of Ukraine are not buying the propaganda you're hearing being espoused and basically verbally ejaculated by these EU leaders and the head of Poland, all of these EU leaders together who are in on this propaganda war. And it's despicable because you just saw, an empirical example of what's happening to young men in Ukraine. And we already provided another empirical example of their ultimate fate. And anyone who's supporting this war continuing has no credibility in my mind as just a functioning member of human society. Yeah, humanity.
Yeah, it's not human. All right, Pete, we got one more slide on Serbia. I don't know if that's of interest.
Just throw that up because it's so NATO just removed this from its website. It's a 99 briefing justifying the strikes on the power grid. And folks, you've heard us talk about color revolutions before, and you've heard us talk about what kind of thought process went into the the Biden State Department, Biden CIA, the EU, when they decided we're going to bomb these ethnic Russians. We're going to start wholesale killing these ethnic Russians. And we, as we've explained, it's right out of the playbook. The Color Revolution playbook believes just what this says on this memo from NATO. NATO will continue to attack Serbia's energy facilities. If this causes harm to civilians by depriving them of water and electricity, that's Milosevic's problem. Let him accept NATO's 5 conditions and this will stop, stated the suddenly disappeared text. So they're pulling all this stuff, their track record. The bombing of Serbia was a despicable thing. It was a color revolution. And you read what these color revolution, these despicable leftists and globalists truly believe, that if you wreak havoc, you inflict pain and suffering on civilians, that's the best way to cause them to rise up and overthrow the person that you don't like, that you've decided it will not cooperate with us. And that's what happened in Ukraine from 14 to 21, exactly that. And that was written by a NATO official right there, and it was archived, but they're trying to clean the slate now. It's the same thing that's going on across the globe right now, but it's also good to see because you're going to hear people start saying that it's not humanitarian what Russia is doing to Kyiv. But what Russia is very carefully doing in Kyiv is taking out infrastructure. They're not bombing apartment buildings. There's no Korans or Iskanders targeted at high-rise buildings. They're all hitting production facilities and intelligence sites around Kyiv, very, very specifically with low collateral damage.
Wow. Pete, what else? You got anything else?
I don't, Todd. That's it.
It's a really, really good update, and we'll have you back next week, maybe later next week, since we did this one so late. So we'll see what's going on.
Yeah, to our viewers, final thing I'd say is, Todd mentioned it earlier, I did a podcast with Sean Ryan. That'll be coming out here in the next week. He was shocked. He went right to Ukraine right in the beginning, so I gave him the Ukraine rundown. He was shocked by it. It's a good podcast. I'll put it out on my Substack page, but we'll talk a little bit more about it once it comes out.
Yeah, and we'll highlight it as well, put it out on our network. Thank you very much, Pete. Really appreciate your insight.
Yep.
Take care.
Thank you, Todd. Bye-bye.